we get to this art scene investigator. This is a term I kind of came up with where what I want them to do when they engage a text is to ask them these questions. What happened here? What are the facts before me? Which facts seem to be the most important? What do these facts add up to? What might we assume from the evidence? How might we test our theories? And what do we know about the perpetrator? Okay. So when we go back to our famous painting there, a couple stages back, if we start asking that, something intentional occurred here. This guy just doesn't make boxes. So how do we get to this now? And suddenly they're like, I'm empty. I got no lens for this. Okay. To give you an example. Okay. So I talk about, as an art teacher, I realize what's important for me, and I used to teach English. I think it's important not just to teach them how to construct, but how to encounter. Because the odds are, out of my 160 kids, 4 might continue in art. Because I get the non-art kids, the kids that say, I can't do art, but I got to take an art credit. Right? So if they can't do that, then I got to teach them how to encounter it. And I want them to stop and not go stupid, or I can do that, or what is it. There's a couch in the gallery for a reason. You sit there and wait for it, and ask some questions, and talk to it, right? So we talk about that, and noticing, so I come up to encounter, you have to notice. Okay? To notice, you have to be open, and I put mind in. And you have to be ready for this. Okay? And then to become open-minded, it helps to have a variety of lenses. Okay? And so, to give you a little example, the default lens is it's comfortable, it's stock, we cultivate it as a result of years of learning, environment, and parents. Okay? It's safe and lacks, I call biodiversity. It lacks biodiversity in its nature. It's monochromatic. Okay? Here are varied lenses, which means any other way of approaching anything. It's risky, challenging, disconcerting sometimes. It must be cultivated or brought into contact with the student. It allows for greater breadth of encounters and experiences. So as they say, if all you got, what's the old cliche? If all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? Okay. It's risky, and it increases biodiversity of lenses. It's polychromatic in nature. And down below, I'm sorry for all the theories. We talk about construction of knowledge, but also encountering of knowledge. So how do I get them to stop and engage a work of art? And I'll tell them, I'll say, look, after you're out of my class, forget it. It's not going to be art anymore. It's going to be a person at work. You're going to encounter people you don't get. You're going to say, you're stupid, I don't get it. You're not very smart, I don't know what your motivations are. So how do you engage them? And you put on different lenses to encounter all the problems you're going to come across. So, and the service focus is service to self. How do we cultivate, this is evident on how students not only cultivate an understanding of their own work, but also cultivate on how to proceed with further work. So as an artist, I want to understand what kind of work I do, what kind of work I'm drawn to, but then where to go next. And then service to the community. This is where we turn the peers into people that might offer up a lens. Well, why not look at it this way? And suddenly kids are teaching kids different lenses. It's not all coming from the instructor. Because again, inquiry, the kids are used to you saying, I'm going to dole out lenses now. So I'll model some, but then I'll ask them to come up with their own. And what's great about this is when I talk about rules and notice, we often think it's about students. But there are two people who have to learn how to notice. A teacher as well, right? When I put my kids in front of a Rothko painting, I better be noticing what they're doing with it, right? And so all of this that I've come up with is not from reading, it's from watching kids and the conversations afterwards and saying, this keeps coming up, or this lens seems to work. So to give you an example of that, there's our painting again, okay? And so the start is, do you like it? That's why I started with, do you like me? That's always a good place to ask them with a piece of writing, perhaps with a topic of research for scientific inquiry. Do you like it? Is it something interesting to you? And if not, or if it is, maybe it's because the lens they're putting on, like they want to study about the jungle, it's not the foothills, because the foothills are boring, right? Yeah. But when they start peeling back those layers, it's pretty amazing what goes on right here in our backyard, right? So it's a trail of lenses, sometimes one, sometimes a lot, get you to the goal, which is understanding with a G at the bottom there, apparently. But understanding. Because I tell them, I say, the goal is not do you like it or not. That's only the starting point. I want you to understand it. You don't have to like something to understand it. Same thing, again, with people. You don't have to like that person, but you get where they're coming from. Okay? So, we take you to a museum, right? And the first thing you see is girl with curl earring, okay? And it's beautiful, eloquently rendered by the Dutch Renaissance painters. And you go on and you go, oh, Sawtooth's Mountains, who couldn't love that? That would look good over my couch, okay? And it's beautiful, though. And some photographers really have a great eye. Oh, and then we get to this. Now, this is interesting because the response here is not dissonance. This is the canon. That's Picasso. He's good. He's famous. That's worth a lot of money. Respect that. That's okay. That's not out of their comfort zone. And if I said, could you do it? A lot of them would say they couldn't. If I said, can you name it? They say, absolutely. That's a woman looking into the mirror, seeing a reflection. She's cradling a lover or whatever, right? So we're still within our lens. When we get to Thomas Kincaid, he opened up stores in Silpok, right? I potem nagle, to jest coś przed ciebie i nie masz żadny pomysł, co to jest. Możesz spróbować cały dzień i nie masz żadny pomysł. And that's really what the problem is.
You don't understand.
It's really, so what happens? What did I just do? Because I do this with my kids and it throws them off. What did I just do?
Confused me.
How did I do it?
Because I didn't understand the language you were talking.
Yeah.
So you spoke to me in a way I didn't understand.
Was I insulting you?
No, I couldn't tell.
Was I singing poetry?
You might have been.
Who knows, right? But it was nonsense to you, right? So it pushed you out, didn't it? That's what this does.
I think you were talking about that great pork that Patronia de Świnia
That's right.
provided you this summer.
I'm just, how handsome you look today. So part of that is I stop and I illustrate that. When you encounter this, the first lens I offer is that art is a language. And that the language here, you don't get it. When I moved to Poland about 20 years ago, everything was nonsense. But then about a month later, I heard like a couple of Romanian people at a table, and I went, that's nonsense, but that's the wrong nonsense. Right? I knew it wasn't the right nonsense. And then a couple months later, I was like, well, they're talking about that guy at the other table. And then the fog cleared. Okay, I gained my lens clear, and then I gained access to it. So the part of it is, if this is a language, maybe you don't have the glossary. And my job as a teacher is to start giving you ways of reading this. So if I said, one of the lenses is art is a language. What is the vocabulary? What kind of language is it? If I said this is not supposed to be anything, that this is not intended to represent, where would you go with that? So I can also say to you, all these things make sense if you belong to the group that understands this. But what's really crazy, and when we forget about it, those are just marks on paper. They could be even Elvish from Lord of the Rings. Makes sense. The kid sitting in the corner, right? So if you are from one of these cultures, you'll be able to tell me if I've accidentally uploaded something offensive here on this slide, right? But otherwise, it's nonsense. And you just have to kind of say, oh, it's really pretty. That's a really nice script. What does it mean? It might say Ebola virus. Who knows? Okay. So what I've done is, and in the packet I've included a list of all the different lenses that I take them through. Art as language is one. Art as context. What is the context in which this work is being presented? Okay. Art as response and reaction. So again, looking at that painting, if that was the response, what was the causation? What made
Presenters, you got about 10 minutes.
provoke?
10-minute warning.
Here are, here's the object itself, or the text, or the thing we're observing. And here are all these different lenses. I have art as idea. So what's the thing that transcends the object itself? In other words, is this piece about human rights? And so we walk away and forget the art, but we can still talk about the idea. Is it the what and the so what? What are the facts? And what do we care about the facts? Art as art through profession. We're going to try that in just a second. So I'm going to let you look through these, okay? Art as answer to a question. That's another one, is when you look at that painting, if I said that is the answer, what might have been the question? And this allows kids not to look for the right answer, because if Rothko's standing there, we can get it. But it allows them to, by posing a question, they get right to the root of what's going on. And so someone would say, in fact, one of the kids said, boy, that reminds me of the beach on a hot summer day. And I go, well, what's that feel like? Oh, it's so great. You got your toes in the sand, and kids running everywhere, and you got no troubles in the world. And I said, so what's the question they're answering? And the question they came up with after a little bit of jimmying around was, how does it feel to be on the beach? And so we start to crack that open. When I ask them art as abstraction, you can also develop a lens, not by doing it yourself, but say, tell me what that word is, because that word is the word you use when you don't get it. Well, it must be abstract. The other term I love is artsy-fartsy. That's artsy-fartsy abstract. You never hear of sportsy-wartsy or anything like that, right? It's always artsy-fartsy. So, yeah. So, all these circles are the students' definitions or contributions to what is abstraction. And all the colored blocks are the formalized definitions. And honestly, they came up with just as good ways of explaining what abstraction is. So now I can say, let's take these words and let's bring them to bear in the constructing of art or text, but also in the encountering of text. Is what we're looking at a distortion? Is what we're looking at a simplification? Is what we're looking at a metaphor? Okay? And all these things, my whole presentation is sort of meant to be a metaphor for language arts. Can we do these same things with a poem? How many lenses can we develop for them to encounter a poem? When we read Shakespeare, we lose a lot of kids because they're like language, okay. So one of the activities I do is, this is a Thomas Hart Benton painting, and I'm going to make you a philosopher. Okay. Usually we draw these. You're going to be a priest. You're going to be a mathematician. You're going to be a marketer.
Okay.
And you're going to be a mechanic. Now, this is a type of lens where I force them into a brand new way of thinking. Like, how might a mechanic view an object? Is it going to be different than how a priest views it? So take a look at this picture, and what do you notice? But you have to notice from your lens.
I see parallel lines.
And you are the mathematician. Okay.
I see the need for insurance, and that would be a commercial. Like, you need hurricane or tornado insurance.
Now, marketer's job is to do what?
To sell.
To sell this painting.
Right.
Who's going to buy it?
Someone who lives in a rural area.
How do you know that?
To a more abstract level.
Yeah. How do you know that?
Because I see the farm and the horse and the plowing.
Is it a romantic story?
No.
Well, I mean, is it romanticized? Or is it horrific?
Horrific.
Okay. So selling this to a farmer who's had to sell his farm and move to the city? Not a good market.
No.
Okay. How about a mechanic? What's a mechanic going to look for? What do you know?
The tools seem old-fashioned.
Okay.
Like we should go into the 21st century. I'm going to have to repair a lot of things.
Okay. Priest?
Times look tough, but faith in God will solve his problems.
Where's your evidence for that?
Above.
No. Evidence in the picture.
Because there's the blue sky in the background. That storm
Coming
will
in.
pass. Things will begin again.
Oh, okay. Okay. What do you notice?
I see some danger, yet kind of things that are solid around us can hold us up in times of trouble, like the rocks up against the shack, and the tree with deep roots that's sort of bracing him against the danger of the lightning coming toward him.
Okay. Now, with a lens like this, sometimes you need assistance. So mostly be art students that have some background. And so what's interesting is and I'm shortcutting all this because usually it cultivates a lot bigger, by asking them to adopt these, it allows them to focus on one thing. If you just said, what do you think? They're going to come back with a very equally general response. If you say, as a mechanic, is this built well? They're going to focus what they look at, and then you can come out of this and say, we had 5 different ways of looking at this piece that are not the default lens. So when you look at, which of your lenses do you think would have the easiest time encountering this piece? Mechanic, how are you feeling about this piece?
Confused.
Yeah. So it's hard to talk about how that's built, right? How about marketability? Is it good for design?
I think so. If I was talking to people who are into contemporary type of design versus realism.
Interior design as well, right?
Right. Yeah.
You can see this going with
A certain
audience.
Way,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how about
See, I'm having problems because it's not balanced.
Oh, okay. It's not balanced and there's an illogic there. Priest?
I don't know, it could be the bright light of salvation above and the red fiery
Fires
depths
of
of hell and damnation below. I don't know.
The divide.
Now, so,
You're walking a thin
so the
line.
philosopher and the priest, who deal in abstractions already, would find something to say. Right? The mechanic is a concrete lens, right? So
90
if we
seconds
went back
to
to that
finish
one, you'd have maybe a little bit more to say how it's executed.